Okay, we are so sorry for the inconvenience made to you because of the issue of just logging into the system. Anyway, we will start the discussion on developing a doable research. Whatever the things that we discussed last couple of weeks are connected to this. So basic idea about the proposal, and again how best we should think and develop research questions, and finally they once all these things are put together, we should have a doable research. Doable research, because when we do research, the ideas would be very broad and go in different direction. That's why we use the term doable research. In order to make today's discussion a successful and interactive one, we wanted you to come out with research, some ideas for research projects and questions. And we made a notice in LMS as well, but I do not know. I didn't see any responses from you guys. Actually, Dayananda sir administered it. We'll ask from Dayananda sir whether he received any comments. So, Dr. Sanjeevani, did you just look into that one and see any research questions or project ideas posted in LMS?
No,
No.
no.
Okay. Then without having your ideologies, your orientation toward the research questions and project task would be difficult. Like it would be much more fruitful and productive if you think. Don't like like message is this. Sometimes we know that when we ask something like this, just creating a research question and research idea, you may think that that is something new, and you may feel like egoistic feelings may be there. Oh, whether my idea would be a good one or bad one. No, don't worry about this thing. That may have led you guys not to put questions, I suppose. But even now you can paste these questions and the ideas of research projects in the chat box, since we three faculty members are, so we can manage it. Please post them. So without this idea, your ideas, the discussion will not be productive. Don't think that this is nothing is perfect in this. So even sometimes utopian or maybe very minor, like little idea might lead to very good research. Okay, quickly we will go through. Dr. Sanjeevani and Dr. Dayananda are joining with me uh, to have this session. So basically, we need to understand what a doable research is. So as the word suggests, a doability, so ability to do. So when we do in research in general, if you just forget about undergraduate research, even in general, there is a limitation. You can't think of doing something that would never end. It does not mean that always research should be uh, like a small task. It depends. So as far as your research is concerned, the time constraints and scope and all those things concerned, and doability comes there. So we'll discuss. But with respect to other research, sometimes so research may be done over longer period of time. So even 10 year, 20 year, even more than that, research may be there. So here we focus on the ability of doing it within the given constraints, within given constraints. In that exercise, um, this screen blocks. In this exercise, what are the aspects to be looked at and question in determining doable research. The research design holds a key to successful research. So first of all, we would like to talk about design, right? So research design, what are you going to do? What is your major burning issue or the puzzle? How are you going to do this thing? How are you going to collect data? And how are you going to analyze these things? It does not mean that the design tells everything in detail, and because once it comes to that level, it becomes your proposal. So here basic design is the sketch, the idea, because even you have fantastic ideas, if you do not have the way forward, how best you collect data, analyze and present, there are weaknesses in the design. So that is why the research design matters. How are we going to do this? Seems you do not have that much exposure of research. So therefore, we recommend you to read some research paper, good research papers, seminal research papers. Read their design. So design may have been explained in different ways. Sometimes they may have talked more about research methodology. Some may have talked much on the way it is analyzed. Again, when research design may vary depending on the type of the research or the methodology, whether it is a quantitative or a qualitative one. If it is a quantitative one, design may be different from that of qualitative. So here we are trying to focus much on a qualitative aspect. Yes, Dr. Sanjeevani,
There is a
you can
saying
add on.
where there is a saying where grand research designs can be made, but its feasibility is questionable. Therefore, it is important to make sure that what you design is put into practice. Therefore, it is said that failing to plan is planning to fail. Therefore, you have to plan what you're going to do very well so that it would be a success story.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm not sure. Do you see whether Dr. Dayananda has connected?
Yeah, I am there. I am there,
Okay, that,
Anil.
yeah. So what we can do is we will take up like take the students through these slides, and for each and every point we can add something. So already I hope that so you listen the first point. If you have anything to add, you better add. Otherwise, we can go to the second point. Hello.
You can go to the second point, no
Okay.
problem.
The second point, the design should reflect the harmony and consistency in components of all the works. Like this is another pitfall that researchers are likely to fall in. Why? If you do not have, as Dr. Sanjeevani mentioned, very clear comprehensive design, somewhere down the line, without knowing, without your knowledge, when you read, because you access to literature, you discuss with others, so even supervisors sometimes give you different ideas from time to time whenever they get different views. So as a result, if you do not hold the steering wheel, actually you need to hold the steering wheel along the direction along which you want to go on. So otherwise there may be some a diversion from the main direction. So that is the reason why we need to always think of the consistency, harmony. Sometimes when you read some additional literature, you might think that so that would be more like your line more is in that way, then you may go in that. So it does not mean that you can't change it. Don't get me wrong, right? When you read more, when you are exposed to the research data and the work more, your idea may change, your research also may change. If that is the case, you need to revise it, you need to realign. In a way, agility, flexibility should be there. So then new one is again aligned with one design. What we mean by the second point is, so in your works, literature review, conceptual thinking, even theoretical framing and way of analyzing, they should connect, link to each other. Sometimes you may have fantastic data, collected all those things, maybe interview, um, structured them well, collected data that may fit very well to thematic analysis or any other qualitative analysis. If it really goes alone with the thematic analysis, if you try to do any interpretation like any other analysis, uh, then the consistency or the harmony would be broken. That is the idea. Yes. Meantime, students, so you guys can pose questions, especially about research ideas and research question. Please put them into the chat box. Yeah, Sanjeevani, that yeah, please. Then I'll just continue. If there is anything, just stop me.
Okay.
Okay, Daya.
Yes, yes.
Okay, then the poor design, therefore the same point what we just explained in bullet point 1 and 2 are the importance and the significance of the research design. So therefore it is pretty obvious that if your design is poor, it would end up with unfocused research. If it is unfocused, what happens, you may do something, of course you may comply. That is why always we really emphasize and tell you that don't worry much about the format, worry about the focus, worry about the consistency, worry about the research issue. Otherwise you may do unfocused research, then it complied with the formats and all those things, but what happens, your findings, outcome, significance, your contribution could be questioned, so there is no use. Then the next point, spending adequate time to plan the research project. So here it does not mean that you should take years, months, and all these things. The adequate time means, so you need to collect all these different pieces of a research, question, that the puzzle, sub questions to be think of, methodology, data, and all these things, sketch, and then put a plan. So it does not mean that you should take unnecessary time to plan it. The planning here is having this comprehensive idea in your, even sometimes if you have this idea in your mind, that would be good, but always we know that you cannot keep the things or in your memory all the time. Better to have a sketch. There is a particular technique or a tool called mind mapping. You may have heard about this thing. You can Google it and get some idea from this mind mapping. Mind mapping put things, so like gives you a sketch of which shows different pieces of uh, the research in general in any subject. But here, since we talk about research, different aspects of research in one connected uh, um, charts, figures, and all those things. So that would be also a good planning. But feel free, you can have any kind of planning. What matters is the planning. Yes, if there is anything, yes, you guys can add. Then raising relevant and strong questions. So strong means valid question. It should be valid and relevant to your idea, your argument, your articulation. Because when we develop, especially a qualitative research, you need to articulate it. You need to explain it. Why it is going to matter? Why it is going to be research? So therefore, your questions also should connect. Actually, these points, even though we take these as separate points to explain you, they are also interconnected, uh, pretty much connected with the second bullet point, that the design should maintain harmony and consistency. Therefore, your question also should do the same thing.
Your
And
questions,
yeah,
your questions, the theory and the method should be in harmony, because you know the way that you raise questions in the qualitative approach and the theories you use in the qualitative approach, the method of data collection and analysis that you use in the qualitative approach is different from the quantitative approach. So therefore, these three should be in harmony when you prepare your research, when you prepare for your research study.
Next. So when we talk about the aspects of a doable research, need for revisiting and modifying the design throughout the research process in response to new development or new problems, new ideas or anything. So that's what I just told you. You have a design, consistent design, but this consistent design can be modified, redefined, revised always. Why? At the beginning, even though we have the theoretical frame and design and all these things, when we go alone with the research, especially when you read more and more, when you collect data, so new things may be highlighted. New things may be highlighted. So that might make you interested in me. So this is the real issue. This is the real doable research issue, not the one that I have grabbed, right? So
And it is said that research never happens fast. So therefore, it takes time. Therefore, don't worry that things are changing. It's not going according to the plan.
yeah. For example, if we refer to maybe a case like a very famous cases related to corruption in Sri Lanka is also a paradise for corruption. Um, Last year, forensic audits were carried out about the bond issue. If someone wanted to do a research on this forensic audit and the corruption, misuse of public funds and all these things, so your basic idea design maybe how a corruption takes place in a public institution, maybe referring to central bank with a special um, analysis of the bond issues during a given time period. So that was your basic design. Assume that you were collecting data and analyzing and all those things. So somewhere down the line, you may come across that how the networks of eminent people or maybe the business, the people have played a significant role in this. So maybe lots of things pertaining to that, assuming that I make an assumption. If you come across such a big network, then you can redesign. Instead of analyzing everything, you can explain the financial and accounting implication or social implication arising only from this network. So therefore, that is a new thing you came across when you read and study about this bond scam, something like this. I just gave that example for you to think of why and how your basic design can change when you go alone with the research, especially qualitative research. There is no end. Even at the last minute, entire idea could change. Follow the guidelines given by a supervisor. Already we have just mentioned, so I'll skip it. So it's very important because the basic the ability of this, because the supervisor is not the one who is going to do the research, but he or she always looks at your research from a helicopter view, from a macro view. So therefore, it's a guideline, but the real operation is done by you, right? Sometimes when you do the real operation, you may not see that the broader view that is and technical. So you can get any support, technical support. So to great extent, supervisor is there to put you on the right direction whenever you deviate. Then take into account the particularities of research problem to the address. So we will be discussing this thing with your research ideas as well. So it again highlights the importance of the research question. Then search for something either to do it differently or to do a different thing. So this also um, reveals something, especially when it comes to qualitative research. Same thing can be done differently in the sense, not for the name's sake. There should be, so what, right? For example, uh, I mean, differently does not always mean that if you do something in a different way for the namesake. No, it is not. That different way should have a meaning or different thing. For example, with respect to Sri Lanka accounting standard or public sector accounting standards, when you look at the research, many may have checked its application or its relevance for performance and something like this. So that is the dominant, like the area where dominantly research have been done. But you may think, why these accounting standards are imposed like this, and how these accounting standards are pronounced. Therefore, that is something different. I mean, like accounting different in the sense you are going to do the same thing. You are looking at the research on accounting standard, but in a different way. That a different thing would be you totally deviate from accounting standard and might touch something that has not been touched by others. But again, the caution warning is this: in lots of research report, we have seen that propose, or like students say that this research is important because others have not done it. No, it's not. So therefore, if others have not done it, that means so you are going to do a different thing. Why others have not done it? There could be two reasons. That should be a stupid idea. There is no use of doing that research. Therefore, just being different does not warrant that it's a good idea. Is that clear? I hope it's clear. So doing different thing does not mean that you are doing any stupid things. So that should have a relevance and should maintain all the qualities or good aspects that we highlight there. So therefore, we do not recommend you to say that others have not done, therefore I am doing. But you can say this thing, but you have to say why you are doing, not because that others are not doing. Of course, others have not done it, but you are doing it not because simply others have not done it, but because it has a relevance. It has a very critical, a crucial issue. It really burns me, puzzles me. The outcome of this thing will have these significances. That's the idea.
Just to
Yeah.
add something to that, my PhD thesis was on how and why SEMA was able to secure its largest market in Sri Lanka. Now, the thing is, when you consider the accounting profession, there are professional accounting bodies which focus on the regulatory aspect of accounting, which is known as public practice. And there are professional accounting bodies which focus on work outside public practice, where the work is not determined by statute. Now, there were no studies carried out relevant to how and why a professional accounting body focusing on work outside public practice could secure markets across the globe. So therefore, how and why it was possible to secure a market in Sri Lanka. This is important because that will force, give some insights to such professional accounting bodies which focus on work outside public practice to secure markets across the globe. So therefore, this was something different, something that the others hadn't addressed, and it was something significant. Therefore, I decided to research on it. So therefore, as Dr. Anil highlighted, it is different, but it is not stupid. Therefore, I did it. Yes, Anil. Anil, your mic is muted.
I'm sorry. No, no one pointed it out. I'm sorry. I will just keep talking. Okay. What I was just telling again, I'll repeat it. Something doable against not everything. The idea is it's more likely that researchers may tend to grasp many aspects, everything in one go. That might create confusion and not doable research. Maybe fantastic idea, but in order it to be doable, better to scale it down. You need to scope it out. What we call synthesization process. We need to synthesize your research into a doable idea. So example, it has been just given here, mundane operation of trust in organizational governance. We are not going to talk about the governance, organizational governance in Sri Lanka. Why? When we take governance, sometimes you may have perceived governance in a different way. When we read students' research papers, if when students do research on governance, they think okay, corporate governance. So once they hear about the corporate governance, again corporate governance means board of directors. So as a result, you may have perceived what we call epistemological thinking. Due to some other reason, this is how you learn, uh, um, how you learn and how you were taught. And you may think that the governance refers to corporate governance. Corporate governance means board of directors. Therefore, the research on governance means relationship between board characteristics and performance. So this is the only area of governance. That could be one way of understanding the reality. If that is the case, even if you think of organizational governance, automatically your idea goes to that something little, but it's not the case. When we think of organizational governance, it covers a very broad area. Why? When agency exists and agents act on behalf of principals by using powers vested in them and by using the resources belong to principals. For example, in any organization, public organization, you appoint a government, you elect a government, then officials are there. So agencies there, actually they carry out what you want. In order to serve for the general public, you elect a government within the state structure. To carry out the strict structure, management is there. They are the government official, public officials. Then governance goes to many areas, legal areas, financial areas, and so many things. These governance, to some extent, have been summarized in um, two areas, that is administrative, what do you call AR, um, AR and FR, administrative regulations and financial regulations. So if there are any weaknesses in those things, so they should be improved. Sometimes in the society, there are discussion, no, because of AR and FR, we can't do the things, get the things done by public officials, and therefore politicians may suggest, okay, do away with all these things. So that would be disaster. Then if you want, you can look into these ideas, why governance is important. So why people or the actors within organizational structure try to do away with governance. Is it for the benefit of general public or to do something else? So likewise, so then
The
you,
thing is, it is important that you start from a broad area, not
yes,
from a narrow area. You start from a broad area and then you narrow it down. Actually, it is called the grandmother, mother, daughter approach, where you think in a broad way and you narrow it down. Now, when you speak about the accounting profession, there will be so many things that you can speak about: the education processes, the training processes, gaining recognition and acceptance, and relevant to the accounting profession. As I said before, there is public practice, work outside public practice. So therefore, you can consider all these aspects and then narrow it down and be focused when you are developing your research study.
Okay, good. So in this particular point, the something refers to mundane operation of trust. Mundane operation of trust. Everything refers to organizational governance. Organizational governance. I hope it's clear to everyone. So from this point, because this holds a key. Yeah, the answer. All right, we can move on if there is anything you focus. Then developing a research question. Now the operationalization part, we like the initial, the anchoring of the operationalization stems with this point, research question. That's what we paid more attention. We talk lots about research question. We emphasize the importance of research question. We urge you to think of research question. Actually, it's really, really good if you can think of this instead of just borrowing research question from someone else. Don't ask research question from your supervisor or your friends, or even literature. If you read and just understand a particular research question would be all right, but don't take it without sensing it. You need to first sense it and realize by yourself, without which the research project is not going to be successful.
And
Then,
this is a learning process for you, because in the future you can question the world and understand the world rather than accepting what is just given to you by your subordinates. So therefore, questioning, could that talent could be developed within you by developing your own research questions for your study.
yeah, I think, yeah, that's a very good point. Actually, questioning helps you to broaden your knowledge. The knowing paradigm would further expand. If you simply listen and follow, then you really uh, grow the believing paradigm. So from believing paradigm, we need to shift to knowing paradigm. So therefore, this broader questioning always why. So in a way, now at the end of your degree program, we are asking you to be very critical and raise question why. But throughout 4 years, or maybe in other learnings, in your from your kindergarten to advanced level, so you may not have asked this why question very much. That is something, even that would be a research area. Why our education system is in that way, just following and not questioning. It creates lots of problem, I think. Even though we argue that the critical thinking, rational thinking are important, but we never ask a why question. We never challenge, because we are afraid of challenging. It is embedded with our culture, society, mainly the culture. If you question your seniors, your lecturers, it might, like, the social idea is that may be taken as offending. But in our case, no. If you question ourselves, that's why we always say that don't believe what we say, question, right? So if you question and put yours in a difficulty level, so that is the best. So then you realize things by knowing and not by believing. For a development of a society, believing society will never ever develop, because that I mean that ideology could lead to unnecessary myths in the society. So questioning and knowing through more facts. So how do you know? By questioning. That is why research question matters. So therefore, your research question should be something strong, relevant, and research worthy. Should entail research rigor. It should not be simple question. But it's better to limit to one or two major questions, one or two ideas. Actually, these one or two, why do we say that one or two research questions? They are really anchoring to your ideology, research idea, your issue, or something that we said, not everything, something that puzzles you, under something that puzzles you. One or two questions are there, they are called master research question. Why does it happen, right? Why say, for example, we can take, so we talk about corporate governance all the time, and we have taken lots of measures to improve corporate governance. So on one hand, so lots of things are happening, and measures are taking for measures are taken for the improvement of governance. But on the other hand, governance is not seen. Instead, only very few accumulate wealth at the expense of others. Then you should ask why. So that is a big research question. How are you going to do this thing? Then you go to some particular area, you select one company or maybe selected company, particular time period, selected area, and do a research why it happens. Why it happens from that perspective. It does
So
not really, yeah,
you start your research study with a problem. You face a problem and you come across a problem. So you need to find a solution to this problem. But prior researchers would have carried out similar studies. Therefore, that is the role of the literature review. You find out what the prior researchers have been doing, and then you find out the gap, and that is how your questions are being formulated. And uh, these questions are normally in qualitative research studies, you pose your question as how and why questions, because in the quantitative approach only that we focus on the uh, causal chains like what. So therefore, you pose your qualitative research study questions as how and why from the literature review that you have teased out.
right. Yeah, I hope that's clear. So major idea, then limit your the workable question, maybe three, four. Just as an example, you can increase. There is no hard and fast rule, but the idea is that always better to limit and focus on your major research idea. The other point is the craft neutral questions. So neutrality. What is meant by neutrality? Because mainly because of your epistemological thinking, your culture, way, how you have learned, dominant ideologies they are in your mind, sometimes might bring you to a partial thinking or some kind of predetermined questions. For example, you may say the questioning, say sometimes in the, so I have just come across some research papers in the last ICBM, uh, some opinion based imagine question such as role of spirituality, religion, any other. So it does not mean that we can't do this, so we can do the research, but if you have already concluded that, so this thing is the one that you need to follow to improve performance, then that would be a problem, because already you have decided that the missing, so why can't, like, so for example, even the poverty cannot be eliminated because we are not spiritual, because we do not follow it, or because we do not help each other, something like, we, without having any facts, information, you imagine by yourself within your epistemological world, because everyone has his or her own epistemological world. Within the epistemological world, you may think that this is right, this is the thing. So therefore those questions are not really good question, they are not neutral. We request you to be to deviate from these question. Better to be neutral. Neutrality means you are with free mind. Even the question, ideas you impose, you ask, can be questioned by yourself whether it is right or wrong. So is that correct or not? So that is the ideology. I hope that it's clear to you. Then, yeah, developing a research question, we need to look at, make an informed decision to use or not to use language that invokes a causation. What effect does divorce have on children? So, for example, we have given, how do children experience a divorce? If you take the first question, what effect does divorce have on children? That the orientation, guidance, direction, causation has been there. We assume that just certain effects are there. Then again, not only that, when we say on children, um, effect, so it could be even taken from the negative perspective, effects would be there. Then automatically, without knowing, you may go towards dominant ideologies about this. That is also kind of research idea. We do not say that you can't research, can, but in a qualitative research, that a causation, you do not invoke causation, uh, um, uh, uh, you invoke causation if you do like this. Better not to do that, better not to use. So therefore, instead of that, if you can frame your question as, how do children experience this, then you go to that issue, you take that issue with a very free mind. We do not know, sometimes effects may be there, sometimes may not be effects, so any other complication, so other aspects, they are not limited to dominant ideologies.
That is where you see that uh, I you have come across the word called ontology. That is the reality out there. In quantitative research, you see that there is a reality out there in the world, and we are trying to understand that reality. That is why that causality is being found. But here it is considered that the reality is a social construction. So, therefore, from the people, we are trying to understand what they consider as reality. And therefore, we are not going into that causality, but we are trying to understand how things are socially constructed.
Yeah. So just to add one point on this thing, for example, say in the case of children and divorce, sometimes like we do not know, maybe a children or child was used to or addicted, addicted to internet gaming and all these things, even before the parents divorce and all those things. So that was the environment culture. So addiction, right? So, but if you just go to cause and effect, like the causation, so after the divorce, so it looks like, so on one hand, one action is there, this addiction to internet gaming. On the other hand, there's another variable divorce. So when you run these things or just match it, you see very strong relationship between these two. But the other effect, addiction to internet gaming may have been influenced by so many other things. So therefore, if we invoke, just invite these kind of causation, you would not be able to get the best out from a research. So we can discuss these things later on. Just keep in mind that it's always good to avoid from giving uh, causation without questioning from a broader mindset. Then the question should reflect your theoretical approach to a qualitative research, especially since we mainly talk about qualitative research. Your theoretical approach, it does not mean that you develop or you build your own theories, no. So theoretical framework is there, theories have been found by others, but you take as your theoretical approach. For example, in economics, to great extent, a theoretical approach to look at economic issues, how profit is maximized in a society, how profit is maximized by corporation. So dominant theoretical approach is the market approach. If you want, you can take then the market approach is not yours, but you take market approach as your approach. That is what we mean. But alternatively, if you want to do something different, why don't we take, if someone takes Marxian economic analysis, so that is a different theoretical approach. But that is Marxian theoretical approach. You look at how value is created in an organization, not from the traditional mode of production, but from the Marxian value creation form. we are not suggesting you to do like this is how new ideas are being generated, especially for qualitative research.
And in qualitative research, theory is used as a way of seeing and thinking about the world. You can't generalize based on your data, but the theory that you use in a particular context can be used in a yet another context. Therefore, there is theoretical generalization in qualitative research and not empirical generalization. Another word for data is empirics. So therefore, based on your data, you cannot generalize, but based on your theory, you can generalize in the sense based on the theory, what you're going to find out by questioning, you can use that particular theory to another context as well.
Okay, so finally, it should be really doable, or I mean reachable research question. Sorry, the researchable, that is connected to your doability. What are the salient features of a doable research? Already we discussed about basic aspects that we need to be concerned when we think of a doable research and framing research question. Then we talk about how the way in which research questions um, are developed or raised. Now we look at some salient features of a doable research. So as the word suggests, doability, it should be feasible. Otherwise, it's not going to be a doable research. Then you can ask some questions. These are questions for yourself. These are not research questions, right? Question about the feasibility. Can I answer my question? Or are these aspects of my questions that are virtually impossible to answer? So that is the first thing you need to clear. If you can't, if you do not see a path to answer to your question, don't do that research. Philosophically, you may argue that for any question there should be an answer. So that is a philosophical idea. In the world, that the philosophy, what the philosophy says, there are no question without answers. Answers are there. But when we raise question, if we are not in a scope or a context to find that answer within your capacity, that is the exercise of your research, better deep. So you, I mean, it's not a doable research. It does not put the foundation for doable research. Then what kind of data will I need to answer my question? So that also holds a key and has a very significant bearing in the success of a research. What kind of data? It does not mean that the kind of data that you like. Here it refers what kind of data that really suits, what kind of data that really suits your research question. It is not that data you like. I hope the question is clear. Are there appropriate data available? So here, relevant and suitable data available. First question you need to ask. This is the data. Maybe you want to take some information about the market behavior, the finance market, or maybe the manager's behavior, internal management control issues, how managers exercise management controls in an organization. Then if your research question matches that, you can go ahead and ask a question whether this data would be available. If available, where, and will I have access? Sometimes data may be with individual people, like, oh, maybe stored, do not know. So therefore you need to check these things first and ask question, and finally you must be able to access to data. Then do I have resources? So basically this is a technical stuff, but you need to think. So within the time frame, as far as you are concerned, our research, we are not going to do some research or something like scientific research by spending lots of money. So in your case, some traveling and other things, but so mainly your resource would be your time to gather data, and I need in order to answer my research question. So that is the thing. So, so last time, um, we can pass that information to you. Most of research students, those who completed, like now they are completing their degree, face the problem of completing their research on time. Why? On one hand, actually COVID affected. On the other hand, they did not plan it properly. Many students waited until the last minute to collect data. So if you follow a frame, you design, you comply with the things, you wait until sometime, okay, you may think that, okay, I have another 6 months to collect data and write the report. No, especially when you do a qualitative research, you should not do like this. You need to live with data. You need to continuously engage with that particular context and collect data. So therefore, even if such unexpected situation like COVID-19, you can cut, okay, so that is my research. So you can end it because you have some data. With that available data, you could have easily finished your research. But many struggle. Why? They did not have the basic data. They were thinking now, they were planning to go and collect data. So many students face problems. Please avoid these things. Are my research questions or data required to answer my research questions ethical? These ethical issues to great extent, actually, when we talk about ethics, it is nothing but simply, so what is the right thing to do, right and wrong. So whether it is right to do or wrong, right and wrong thing, right or wrong. So it depends on many things, individuals, your epistemology, and your culture, your history, and political context. So likewise, there are so many things influence your ethics, even professionalism. Here we look at from the professional point of view, and uh, um, whether we use this data, or whether revelation of this particular data would create some problem, or whether it is right or wrong, issues may be there. But in Sri Lankan context, these ethical frameworks, especially in doing research, have not been framed. But therefore, you need not to worry about the entire scope of ethical framing, but be mindful, at least basic ethical aspects, whether it is right or wrong. Especially when we, so biggest issue we have come across with our students is the um, plagiarism. Plagiarism, you take others ideas as your ideas. That means you simply copy others ideas without giving due credits to them, right? So it has become a business in Sri Lanka. That is why it has become a culture. Some private sector universities also promote, they hire someone if you want to do a research, to be honest, right? So I'm just sharing these views. You also know, if you want to do a research, this undergraduate research, if you have money, right, you can spend some money, maybe a sizable amount. You can get a very good research done by someone else without your involvement. It is ethical. It's a right or wrong. So you have to ask this particular question, right? It is pretty obvious that from the learning point of view, it is not ethical. It is not the right thing to do, because why do we not do research? Is not. I mean, we are not going to check the like. We are not happy that you have a very nice research report, the bound report. So our intention, our idea, our objective is to make you improve your capacity to uh, um, solve real life problems by doing this particular research. If you ask someone else to do research on behalf of you, then you would not be able to face this problem. If it is not going to be a matter in future, then you can do this. So, but these things are really problematic in Sri Lankan context. By and large, context allows these things. Knowingly or unknowingly, we accept. But if we do, like as far as the qualitative research are concerned, and our degree program is concerned, we are strict on this, and we especially pay much more attention on this plagiarism. So as a result, if we come to know that they have been copied and it's not your work, unnecessary things, sometimes you may have to pay a big price. But forget about this thing. But from professional point of view, because you are adults, and so you are going to be the great citizens of this country. You are going to hold responsibilities of this country in future. Therefore, it is pretty obvious that you should not do these things. Again, fake information, manipulated information, and created information should not be used, and you should not use information in such a manner to really tarnish the others' images in an unnecessary manner. So there are so many things, but unfortunately, these ethical frameworks are not there. But being the first, like you are taking the first step of doing research, be mindful of basic things of just copying others. At least the plagiarism aspect, that could be much better. Does my research question make sense? Of course it should. Is my research question too complicated? Shouldn't be complicated. Then is my research question based on empirical, theoretical, or policy problem? So if it has any theoretical problem or connected with social issues, cultural issues, or any um, like maybe in Sri Lankan context, lots of divisions are there, religious, social, gender, likewise. So therefore, your research questions should not harm the other things, right? Like for example, in a way, um, this can be openly discussed when we talk about gender. Dominant ideologies about gender, male or female. Actually, gender depends on your hormone reaction, and there are so many things. So these are the two camps. But apart from this, other situation, that is sexual orientation, gender orientation, may be there. So if your research does not have, suppose that you are doing some research on gender related things, but your gender gives only, so your scope is limited to male female. So that is something that question a policy problem, and even ideological problem. So that the question is because now we have to admit that fact. In the past, because we did not have that much knowledge, because we thought that okay, even gender, that and this, all those things are decided by someone else, maybe good. So if you accept any other gender, if you think that any other gender orientation is there, so that is something you are doing against the god wishes or the gods, so something like so. But when it comes to research areas, we need to get rid from other things. Then
And
yes.
yeah, I want to add something to that. You please ensure that when you are planning your research study, that you are able to collect data from the sources that you are planning to collect data, because for ethical reasons or due to confidentiality, the access may not be possible, then your study cannot be completed. Therefore, before uh, uh, before making a final decision on the research study that you are going to do, phone, through telephone, or by email, find out from the relevant parties whether data collection will be possible. Because when I was in the UK reading for my PhD research study, I said that I did a study relevant to how and why SEMA was able to secure its largest market in Sri Lanka. So the uh, minutes that they had maintained at the divisional council meetings and things like that, and even the annual reports of the Sri Lanka SEMA division, those things, whether I will be able to access, I telephoned from the UK to Sri Lanka and found out. And um, I also the relevant people who had been holding high positions in the SEMA Sri Lanka Divisional Council, I emailed them. And through all these ways, I found out whether it will be possible to collect the data, because the data is something very critical in a qualitative research study, because first you collect the data and you try to give meaning to that. So therefore, please ensure that you are in a position to collect the data.
Okay, so the other aspect is, will my research question um, accommodate surprises? So it really entails with something interesting. So there should be some contribution, and would be all right to have potential criticism. Even if you take the present situation of COVID, so everyone talks about COVID, vaccine, medication, and all those things. If someone can, like, so that is not within your scope, I'm just telling you something to understand this issue. If some scientists or maybe virologists or whoever who are in this particular medical field, or come together with the business, or come out with some findings or the research questions, is it really created or pre-planned something connected with the pharmaceutical industry? Hmm? Even if you want, you can touch it, like, but a very big research issue. So like pre-plan something with the pharmaceutical business, so it surprises you. So as of now, we have perceived it something like, due to some other reason it has come, so we are struggling to find something to face this situation. But if it were not, had it been pre-planned, and said it being how it happened and in what way these things are going to uh, uh, protect these the market situation and earn profits, would create something surprise. So it would be interesting for others. So I read one book recently. That particular book talks about ideologies about this algorithm. So now artificial intelligence and all those things say that decisions can be taken with the outcome of algorithm to great extent. Your decisions are results of algorithm. Those algorithms will generate numbers and some information, pieces of information for you to take decision. That book so argues, so brings a particular issue. Actually, it is, in a way, you can take this thing as a research issue. The idea of the research question is that, yes, true, the artificial intelligence or these algorithms comes out with numbers, but if you take all the beings in this world, including human beings and other animals, all beings are algorithms. So that is something surprise. So if you can do a research maybe from science field of, so it would be interesting. But those algorithms, outcome of those algorithms of organism, actually they use the word, so everything is summarized into a research question. All organisms are algorithm. All organisms are algorithm. But the outcome of algorithm of organism come as different emotions, feelings, actions, fear, sadness, something like. So would be interesting, something like. So keep in mind that your quick research question must make others interested in. Will my research questions allow me to accommodate findings that challenge conventional wisdom? Yes, that's possible. So need not to accept, embrace the conventional wisdom all the time. You better challenge. Even nowadays, researchers are like talking about like many things, especially in the science, technology, galaxy, universe. So things that we had not found are revealed later on. And the falsification theory found so many problems in the Newton's theory later on after 350 years. So had we accepted conventional wisdom, so those things would have carried uh, um, all the time. Now change, even in this what you call star system astronomy. Now another aspects have been found. I can't remember it. That is not there in these the basic or the traditional or conventional aspects of astronomy. So you have to challenge. Has my research question already been asked before? And if so, what will I add to this? It's all right. The same question can be asked from with different modification, different the perspective, maybe the time frame, likewise. So don't worry whether it is a question that has been asked, but it should be something, there should be value addition. Do established people in the field think my research question is interesting? Hmm? Like you need not to like do establish people. I mean, they also might think, but it can make others interest with the finding, with the argument, with the articulation that you bring about. So that's the thing. We need not to get the ratification or the warrant or the ratification from well-established people. So that's also another area. We need not to think it. What are the potential criticism or potential flaws with the kind of question am I considering asking? Example, focusing too much on consumers and not enough on sellers. So like when we go to workplace, so this would be very common area. Then you can think of the other sellers. Even in the case of workers and employers. So all the time we talk about workers side. So why don't we talk about employers? So like as we just talk about in the gender issue, we talk about male, female. Why don't we talk about other areas and the complications? Some examples of research areas, but not limited to like, so just we have taken these things from practical situations. But when you think of qualitative research, actually you are free to think of any area. New areas can be taken. But to guide you, we have listed these things. Teaching strategies of accounting, lecturers in academic and professional institution, teaching strategies. So you need to think this is an area only, not the research question. Within this, you can develop so many research questions. Right? And integrative reporting practice, IR, right? So nowadays, there is a tendency towards uh, um, integrated reporting. But sometimes lots of research may have done integrated reporting versus performance. So that is one area, dominant area. So that may not be that much interested. But if you can think of something interesting, that would be really good for a qualitative research. But this is a research area, doable research area. Then study on success or failure, accounting undergraduate with poor English knowledge and intern in small audit firms. So like this is a question between privilege and unprivileged. So some group is there, so they are exposed to lots of resources and privilege. Others are really sidelined. Then whether there are any discrepancies, whether there are any differences between successes or failures between these. So within these, you can develop some research question training area, because we have just listed them down from the experiences we have by talking to students and reading research reports of students and taking current issues and things which are seen in the business world. Then accounting
One of
practices, yes.
my students last time did a research study on the training provided in a big four audit firm and a training provided and the training provided in an indigenous audit firm.
Hmm.
So that's two different training organizations. The it was a case study.
Right. Yeah, that's a good idea. Then accounting practices in digitalized environment. So could be like many, but accounting practices in digitalized environment. So when we talk about digitalized environment, maybe computerized and all these things. So then now, so that is one area. I would like to add another area. Nowadays there is a trending um, a focus is given on cryptocurrencies. Sometimes you may have this experience of Bitcoin is the first cryptocurrency introduced. Now the value is increasing. So the logic behind these things, like what would be the nature of international finance in future? So the research area is international finance with new version of cryptocurrency. So international finance and cryptocurrencies. So if someone can do a research on this thing, of course that would be interesting. Why? What is cryptocurrencies? Why cryptocurrency is going to challenge the traditional fiat currencies, and what would be the situation in future? How best the government would look into this, and whether there would be any tussles among governments in future, because now we have some evidence some countries officially formally are going to introduce these currencies they call digital currencies. Actually these digital currencies are in the form of crypto virtual currencies sometimes. So argument would be there in future these physical currencies may not be in use, because sometimes so when you hold fiat currencies, so due to the mechanism of supply and demand of money and the economic conditions, so you may have seen a negative interest situation as well. How and why it happens? So no one has done a research on this thing. So negative interest scenario is when you deposit 100 rupees, after some time you are given only 95. How and why? Then may be connected with these fiat currencies. How that would really be erased in cryptocurrency? Just don't think of that question. I just told you, lots of potential is there in these new areas, especially uh, with so especially those areas engage with technology. Then again, digitalizing tax system in Sri Lanka. You know that Inland Revenue Department introduced even now uh, lots of other issues are also there. On one hand, just to make the taxpayers convenient or tax collection process and all those things, and the cost effectiveness, efficiency, there are so many things. At the meantime, the digitalization process can be questioned if you want. So within the digitalization process, so many influence of politics, uh, um, so the dominance of authorities and corruption. So these kind of things also there. So therefore, in a way, a digitalization of tax system, revenue collection in Sri Lanka is a major research area. The consequences of performance measurement system. So we can take, so this is one area that the board is the case. So performance measurement is a very broad area. um, in the past, like even in the past, lots of research had been done on the performance measurement. They face lots of problems, because final performance is going to be really, either we like it or not, we have to admit the fact that it is a result of a collective efforts. You contribute in so many ways in organization. It is very difficult to find the performance of individuals, but we have measures, we have tools. Accordingly, we give rewards individually for collective performance. This contradiction is there. Now, the tendency is there to go ahead with a kind of collective performance measurements and the collective reward system. Then we can think of such and study about a traditional performance measurement system and explain how it happens and why it happens. So that might give something or finding for others to think of a different systems even. You can question it. Huh? Why and how these traditional performance systems uh, prevail.
Uh,
Yes.
okay, you continue.
Yeah. Do you want?
These
Yes. Yeah.
are
Yeah. Yeah, you can add. We have
I
time.
can
Yeah.
if you go to the previous slides, Anil,
Yeah.
uh, uh, for example, digitalizing tax system in Sri Lanka, uh, in land revenue, but you can do the same area in some other organization. Even for example, a custom, of course, they have introduced a new system.
Yeah.
I think motor vehicle department also going
Yeah.
to introduce new system, but there is a barrier. So likewise, wherever digitalization process has been taken place or efforts has been taken, so there is a possibility of conducting such a research. It's not should not limited to inland revenue department. You can take whatever the place because there is a
Exactly.
change, but in such situation there is another opportunity to talk about the management controls. So when you digitalize the system, whatever whether it's in the public sector or private sector, whatever the organization, when changes are taken place in the organization, so what is the impact? So what kind of management controls are really emerging? What are the new ways of how they are going to manage the new system by introducing management control? So thereby wherever changes are there, whatever the changes, so there are many opportunities for you to conduct research.
yeah. So I think that's
In
really a
addition to this consequent performance measurement system also, it's a wide, it's a, it's a popular area
mm,
even for private sector multinational organizations. You may talk about the performance systems. So there are conflicts between the forces really made by foreign companies and the local culture. There is a conflict. So there are very good opportunities for you to study even performance measurement system in different contexts, not limited to Sri Lankan water board, but you can think about wherever the issue is there. So I think there is a possibility of conducting research. When you go through this list, I think you can find out your own research area. So but only thing is you just link those research areas to your experience. Then I think it's easy to find out area for you to carry out your research. The other things which I would like to add is, now when you take the recent story, this the Colombo Harbor story, 51 and 49 percentage ownership. Um, so what is the, so you can study that also. So there are different ways. One area would be the, you can look at the story from public sector reforms. Other area would be the financial reporting. Now we know 41 and 59 story when we prepare the consolidated financial statements, financial reporting. So the this port is a, it's a public sector organizations. So do they have shares? I don't think so. How they are going to operationalize this 41 and 59 story, whether it's as a joint venture or a public private partnership? What kind of accounting, what is the role of accounting there to really implement the policies taken by the government especially in respect to this particular recent story. So likewise, if you think you can find out research area from that issue also. The other thing is, when you look at this accounting, better to think about beyond financial reporting. So for example, uh, are we accounting for biodiversity? Now when you take the Sri Lanka Water Board, so they take the water from the environment. So are they accounting for that? How they are really, do they consider that matter? For example, our organizations really consider the impact they are making, negative impact they are making to the environment, and the benefits they are getting from the environment. So biodiversity accounting, environmental accounting. So those are really financial accounting perspective, but beyond traditional way of looking at the disciplines.
And
Yes.
in the present day context, with respect to COVID, you will find out that there were business organizations that went into bankruptcy, and there were business organizations which made use of the opportunities that came with COVID. So, such success stories, failures with respect to the accounting aspect, those are also some prospective research studies. And through the purpose of doing the research study could be, there are the contribution to the literature that you are making, because what the others haven't studied, you are studying. That is the gap, that is the contribution to the literature. And also for the policymakers, for their future development, for the policymakers, how you're going to direct them. That is another contribution. And yet another contribution is how you are going to contribute to the theory that you are using. You would have used that theory in a different way that that the other researchers have used. So you must ensure that you have the purpose of doing the research in your mind when carrying out the research study.
So yeah, it's very clear that these are examples only. Then you have what you can do. You can expand your research project based on this research example by taking different aspects. Instead of what about, you can think of something else. So likewise, so within the given areas, you can think of different aspects or the same. So that is one option. Or you can come out with totally new area which has not been listed here, as Dr. Dayananda and Sanjeevani mentioned about new area, this the Colombo Eastern container terminal issue. So it's going to be very critical from like that, what Dr. Dayananda explained from accounting perspective, but from the social and political perspective also, that is going to be a critical in future. Then that would be very interesting. You take that issue, but your research question is just limited focus to accounting aspect. That's all right. So likewise, you can think of totally new area. And if you guys are willing to do or develop research projects in qualitative with this free mind and interrogative mindset, without having anything the built in the mindset or the preset the question, we are pretty much happy to help you. We are pretty much happy to guide you, accept you to do qualitative research together. Do the planning from the very beginning and collect more information. Be interrogative. That means always you better have two tools in your brain, in your epistemological um, engagement. These two questions are why and how. Why and how. You are not accepting, you're not believing.
The
Then
dominant ideologies are not being accepted. You're questioning the world.
then therefore, maybe during this particular course, research methodology in this semester, you can collect. Every day we advise you to jot them down. Whenever new idea comes in, write them down. Because I also experienced this, fantastic ideas came to my mind. Sometimes you get new ideas, especially when you are in the bathroom, right? So new ideas come in to pop up in the mind. But once you come out, you may forget. So best thing is write them down. So I have forgotten many ideas. So now I started just writing them. So you also can do the same practice. Write them down. Then maybe in the next semester we can discuss together with your research question. Unfortunately, we did not get many research questions to discuss. But anyway, feel free, and we are freely available no matter whether. I think so. We would join you again. But in any case, if our meeting is limited, feel free to contact us maybe by email or maybe any source, so you can come to the university and meet. Maybe now even the COVID is there, so there are not that much restriction. We can move. So do in that way, because you are really capable of doing this thing. With the knowledge that we have gained over 3.5 years and the experience, your capacity, competencies that we have developed. Actually, you are having such high competencies because you have gone through very tight and competitive examination processes. Meantime, you may have gained some knowledge from professional examinations. Likewise, by doing or working, you may have gained some experiences. So therefore, from many sources, so you have developed your capacities, you have improved your competencies. So therefore, think that so actually you can do great research. So you are really capable of doing research. So then to do or to do this particular contribution to the society and yourself, to the body of knowledge in future. So this is a very good starting point. So your undergraduate research is going to be a very good starting point. Therefore, so you better not to think of getting this particular work done by someone else. You better really engage it, apply.
Be passionate about your research study, and it will develop lifelong skills, right? Critical thinking, analytical thinking, writing skills. A lot of skills are developed through this process, and that will help you to become employable graduates. And also, you would get you will be able to reach greater heights very soon if you develop these skills. And uh, uh, this is the this is a very good opportunity for you.
Okay, so there are some other the areas as well. So we are not going to discuss about these things. So more or less the same thing. So slideshow is available. You can go through, and if there is any question, so later on you can ask. I even now maybe we can spend few maybe minutes if you have any questions to discuss. So I hope that yeah, so that's all. So these are only examples, but we explain you how these examples are or can be used by yourself to develop very good research project. We hope that you guys, maybe some of you guys, come out with a good doable qualitative research projects. We are pretty much happy, not only me, Dayananda sir, Sanjeevani, so there are other lecturers in our lecture panel, Dr. Chaturika, Dr. Dilipa. Both of them are also in qualitative. They are interested in doing qualitative research. Who else? As I remember, only those two. Dr. Sanjeevani, are there anyone else?
No.
In the qualitative field, V3 and Dr. Chaturika and Dr. Samudra, right? Dilipa. Is that all?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So um, we are pretty much happy to do so. Yeah, Dayananda sir or Sanjeevani, if you have anything you can add, or if the students have any question, you can ask now. Otherwise, we can wind it up. Yeah, Dr. Dayananda, do you have any question or anything to add? Daya, I'm not hearing. So, yeah, Dr. Sanjeevani, do you have anything to add?
No, I'm more than happy to help the students. If they have any questions, you can email me, you can call me. As Anil and said.
Okay. All right. Then is that are you hearing us? I think so. Some technical issue. Okay. Do you guys have any questions? So we do not see anything posted in the chat. But even later, Dr. Dayanand has created a link, or it's an assignment for you to raise question. Please, with the knowledge that you gain from today's discussion and all this discussion from whatever. So even your thinking develops good ideas about research projects and good research question. At least one or two research question, post them in the assignment link. We would look at them and discuss with you. So that also would help you to develop a very good qualitative research project in future. So thank you so much for today's session. So attending and listening. And we wish
Thank you very much.
yeah, we wish all the best and have a nice weekend. So see you again soon. Thank you so much. Bye bye.